Hello once again, everyone. So, I started a Fiore class about 2 months ago, and we have gone over Fiores to kicks. And kicks are something that is part of historical fencing that is often not talked about in detail, and I get asked about it a lot. It's like, what do kicks do? Can we use kicks? Are kicks legal, etc.? And I thought I'd just go over Fiore's interpretation of them, as well as talking a little bit about the modern rule. And for that, ironically, I don't have a Fiorist with me, because most of my Fiorists weren't here today, and Nye has always been a willing minion subject victim. So,
3 years ago.
exactly, so I'm going to kick him a couple times. But, we're going to go over how his plays work, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about their application, and some opportunities that can be presented to you as well. So, first and foremost, his first kick isn't so much a kick as it is a stomp. So what happens is, the opponent steps in, we come into this bind, right? This is his normal plays from long range, but in the middle bind. We're not at the tip, we're here. From here, if his blade is still, I have the opportunity for a blade grab. Very common move. I'm going to reach up with my left hand as I step up with my right hand. And once I've got this, I just pull down. I can strike or thrust, right? Now, that's the first play. He describes you can strike or thrust, and then he puts, or you can destroy the knee. And he actively uses the phrase destroy, and based upon the range, I don't believe it is a kick, because as we look, he comes in. When I step up here, yes, his leg is in front, but I don't really have room to launch a proper kick at his leg. So what it's going to be is, when I get to this moment, if I can just strike him, that's great. But as you see, even when I hold onto his blade, he still has the capability of moving his sword to defend himself. And we were just sparring, and that is a thing that came up more than a few times, comes up a lot actually. Now, you might think, okay, great, I still have the advantage, I can just keep going till I get it, right? However, I am still grabbing a sharp sword, and even if I grab it correctly, all he needs to do to escape from this is get enough structure to do that one hard pull, and if I can't move with him, that is going to cut the crap out of my hand, right? Now, sometimes you can get away with this, right? So, for example, we're here, I grab, he tries to pull me, and I can step with him. And you do get a sense for that. And here and there, you get away with it. Like there were a couple earlier today that I did step with, and I was like, okay, we can keep going. But, by and large, I'm on borrowed time as soon as I grab that sword. So if I can cut him, great. If I can thrust him, great, right? I usually do a 1-2 as my personal combo. But the situation then becomes, what if he's blocking or trying to escape? What can I do next? Which is where this stomp comes into being, right? Not that you couldn't immediately go into the stomp, just that if you can hit him with the sword initially, why wouldn't you? So, we come in, we're here, I've stepped up and grabbed. Now he's in the process of trying to defend himself, so what I'm going to do to avoid getting stuck with borrowed time is usually I will do a little gathering step to get myself a tiny bit closer, and I'm going to put the side of my foot, Fiore describes specifically at the base of the kneecap, so that would be right about where the edge of his trousers are right here, and just above the shin bone. Now, when it comes to destroying a knee, you can hit right on, you can hit right above. That's where most, what are they called? I can't remember the exact word for it, but it's a front kick. Kickboxers do it a lot. Right to the top of the knee, right about here, which can again destroy the knee. I don't know why Fiore is specifically referencing going for this area. Personally, I believe it might have something to do with either the possibility of them wearing leg harness but not cuisses, or even if they do have, greaves. Even if they do have greaves on, if I hit here, that's all connected. If I hit here, the greaves are always separate from the rest of his leg harness, so I could still destroy it that way. Or the other theory I have is that if I don't break the leg, I will slide down that shin, raking the shin, and then end up stamping on his foot, which is something we see in Fairburn and Sykes' all-in fighting from the Second World War. So again, viable strategy. I can't confirm either of those, but we know that he specifically says to put your foot there. He also specifically says to put the side of your foot there. I think most of this is for good leverage, and it's so I can put my whole weight down into it. So gently, I will now show what that looks like. Here, step up, boom. And I just put that weight hard onto it. But you'll notice I don't really have the room to percussively kick. I mean, yeah, I can, but it's not very hard for him to feel that coming and pull his leg back, or even just make the blow not as bad. Plus, if I have to pull up for a second, and he pulls that, I'm kind of screwed. Versus if I'm moving forward with it, maybe I have a better chance. But he describes it to the front of the knee, and he also describes it to the side of the knee. Now, I didn't come up with this particular interpretation. It's actually thanks to Academy, I'm going to try and pronounce the name, Schmerzi, the guys who did the wonderful Fiore vids. They showcased this, and I think that's a great way of interpreting how we get to the side of the knee. So something commonly we see in Fiore is that when he wants to withdraw, sometimes he will do the volta sable backwards as he withdraws like so. This covers his head, gets him partially out of presence, and he's chambered to launch an attack coming back at me, or what have you. We see this, a guy tries to run away from a cut from above doing this. Fenestra is a folded back position that is described as a very good parry. So that's kind of where this is coming in, right? So we come in, we're here, I step up, he's pulling back to defend himself, so now I end up attacking the side of the knee instead. So it's not the inside of the knee, it's the outside of the knee. And as you see, it crumples his mechanics even a little bit quicker. So that's why I think it's talking about the side of the knee and why the move is relatively unchanged. So again, it's not quite a kick, it's a stomp. And it's used as a way to get out of having to buy yourself time. Because once I get my foot on him, he's not really going away, right? Now, obviously, how do you practice this safely with like your friends? Can you do this in sparring? If we're all Fiorists here, can we safely do it? Yes and no. What I personally tell my guys is that if you find yourself in that perfect opportunity to do it, right? And for whatever, go ahead and like cover and everything, right? If I know that I'm on borrowed time, if you can do that, that takes the exact same tempo as me stomping. Any Fiorist will go, yeah, okay, I see what you were doing there, right? But also just be faster on the stab. So, in general, if you can just tap the thigh like that, I'd call it good. But the other big kick, and an actual kick this time, is going to be Fiore's kick to the groin. I'm sorry, not. But where this one comes out of is actually quite fun. It's not in his, it's still in his long range plays, but it's kind of his first close range play. So he comes in, and I'm here. Go and get a little closer, right? Now, at the moment, I could still launch into a blade grab. Or alternatively, since we're relatively close, I'm going to chamber a kick, and I'm going to attack at his groin. Now, what kind of kick this is just a teep kick. All I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up, and I'm going to attack right there, just bam, as hard as I can. Teep means stab, by the way, which I only found out recently, and that is a great descriptor for what I'm doing here. So just up, boom, nice and hard. Now, the fun bit about it is Fiore mentioned specifically, the kick isn't really the important part. He doesn't even describe how to do the kick. He just says a kick to his groin. For all we know, he's doing one of those numbers, right? Probably not, but it's about collapsing his structure. Because, yes, great, he said forward, if I can just kick him, boom, that's great. But he didn't really react to it, right? His sword's still there, that's still a danger. The thing I'm trying to do, and this time I won't hit you in the balls, right? I'm trying to get that to happen. His sword becomes weak, so my sword can come down onto his head. I'm looking to collapse the structure so that I get a free shot at the head. I just did that to you a few minutes ago. Now, of course, we can't kick each other in the crotch in competitional HEMA. You shouldn't do it in friendly HEMA either, because it's literally a dick move, right? However, we are allowed to launch kicks above, right? So center mass to about here, A-okay, and they need to be push kicks rather than percussive kicks, which is fine. A lot of people, when they read that rule, they're like, oh, the kick is useless. But again, the kick wasn't the point of the play. The point of the play was to destroy his structure so I could hit him with my sword. I mean, absolutely. If you're a particularly good kicker, I am not a trained kicker, but if you're a particularly good kicker and you can really destroy him, great, fantastic, that wasn't pleasant, right? But I didn't hit you, because I put so much emphasis on the kick that I didn't have opportunity to really hit you. Not saying that you couldn't, but it's kind of wasted motion, and that's not what the play is about. The play is about collapsing a structure so I can hit him with my sword. So what I do now, when I adapt it, right, he steps in, I'm just looking to get that collapse so I can get that hit on the head. And so now kicking above is A-okay. In fact, I find the less energy I put into kick, the better. Because go ahead and just stand and guard for me here, right? Other foot forward. Right? If I put a ton of energy, it pushes him backward away from me, which is what I'm not really looking for. Versus if I put less, he kind of folds with it. It buckles him, which is what I want. So that way it weakens his sword and I can hit him. This is also sometimes referred to as the Talhofer kick, because Talhofer does show it, though Talhofer specifically shows it to the stomach. rather than the crotch. So he's probably looking for the same sort of idea. But if you time this just right, you can knock someone just flat onto their arse. It's great when it happens. But again, the kick is not the focus. Collapsing the structure is. Now another thing I want to talk about is the counter to this, which is basically, Fiore says the counter is you catch my foot and then you throw me, right? So we come in, he steps in, I go to kick him, he just catches my foot, right? And as you can see, now he's a wrestler, he knows exactly what to do. He caught my foot, he pulled me forward, so I lost my balance, and then he swept my leg, right? Fiore doesn't actually give you a specific throw to do. He just says, catch the leg, throw them, basically. Now, a question that I had when I showed this move was, someone was like, he doesn't give any specifics as to how to catch it. Could you do other sorts of catchings? Yeah, absolutely. Here's the important part though. When you catch in this manner, one, it's a little easier to do, right? Just gross motion. Two, it keeps my shoulders level. Because once again, catching the kick, that's great, but the kick is not the part that's scary. The part that's scary is the swords that are hanging above us, quite literally the swords of Damocles, right? Whichever one of us' structure collapses first, that's the person getting whacked in the head. So, I have seen people have been like, can I do this one? The problem with doing this kind of catch is that you notice how my shoulders are now going lopsided. Absolutely you could catch the kick this way, it'd be plenty strong enough, but by bringing this shoulder up to do this sort of catch, this shoulder goes down, thus the sword is weakened, and I would probably get dunked on the head. So, in general, when it comes to whatever throw or whatever catch you do, this catch tends to be the easiest to do. You don't need any training to do it. Nye had never even heard of the counter before we started filming this, and he caught it just fine and threw just fine, right? It's just a simple motion. But I would say any throw or whatever you want to do, as long as it keeps you strong up here, A-okay. But otherwise, thank you very much, Nye. I abuse you so. Hopefully that was helpful in explaining a little bit about kicking and opportunities to use it. The focus is always going to be the sword. So if your kick can set you up for using the sword, great. If you're one of those crazy people that can do crazy like spinning back kicks or whatever, if you can pull it off, great. If you KO them, great. But that's not really what we're about. We're about fencing. And so as the kick is a supplementary technique to the sword, great. It's exactly the same as any grappling action, or in theory, unarmed strikes with the fist. The sword is the priority, and that's why there aren't a ton of them, right? But either way, hopefully that was interesting and maybe cleared things up if you didn't have a ton of context about that. But we'll go over some other techniques that hopefully don't destroy our opponents quite as much another time.